Hey guys, okay, so today I'm going to show you how to correct this wide angle warp that some of you guys are going to see on your charcoal drawings. Because of the lens that we used to document your guys' drawings, it was a wide angle lens, and so some of you, especially you that have very wide drawings, are going to notice this warp. You can see how this is sort of bent at the top and a little bit on the bottom. If you have a less wide drawing, you probably won't notice it as much, but you might still want to correct it. So the first thing we're going to do actually is before we do anything, some of the actions that we're going to do are going to take away a little bit of the border. And I was doing this earlier, and I noticed that it started to eat away actually at the drawing. And so what we're going to do first, and you might not have to do this, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it anyway. Some of you might have enough border, but Gael's here has a very slim border. So we're going to add a little bit of border. So we're actually going to go up to the crop tool, which is right here, and then I'm going to hold down Alt as I pull this to the side, and this is going to add equal amounts of room to both sides of her drawing. Okay, great. And then we're going to go to this here, which is the clone stamp tool. And what this does is it takes a sample from a part of your drawing and allows you to draw that sample elsewhere on the drawing. So I'm going to hold down Alt and then click. That allows me to take the sample. And then you see that I can just draw. I see the sample was down here. And then as I draw upwards, I sort of hit her drawing. So we don't want that, obviously. So you're just gonna, and you can always go back and sample again. So, see, I got a little bit of there. So you're just gonna slowly start to build some black space here on this side. And as you get more into it, you'll have more black space with which you can sample. So you don't have to keep coming back for these little short stints. I'll show you here in a sec. So I can now sample from here and then sort of draw that out. And you might wonder, like, ooh, is that like actually looking like the black background that we use? And you know what? It's dark enough that it's really not gonna matter that much. But if you are worried about it, you can just kind of be careful and maybe do some touch-ups of your own. But right now, basically what we want is just like good enough. And you'll notice like you could just fill this in with black, but if you do that, you'll notice that like it's actually much blacker than this black background, which is actually ends up being kind of a dark gray. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to do something like that. I actually have it prepared. Voila! Yeah, it's like one of those cooking shows where you pull it out of the oven. Anyway, so for sake of time, I did this earlier, and I added some border to Gael's drawing. So anyway, next thing we're going to do, and maybe the first thing you want to do if you feel that you have a sufficient border, is we're going to go and use this really handy thing that Photoshop already has, which is called lens correction. It's going to go up to Filter in the menu, down to Lens Correction. So this is going to bring up this window, and then over here there's all these different cameras and camera models and lens models that you guys can choose from that will then kind of correct it based off of the lens flare that's on it, or the lens angle. So we're going to go here, we're just going to click regular old Canon, which is basically the camera that we use to document you guys' things. Now, you don't have to use necessarily the camera that you took the picture with. You can just find one of these that like works well for you, but you notice how even by doing that, we got rid of that warp a little bit. So if you go through some of these, you'll notice like some of these work pretty well. That one's pretty good actually. That one's not. So it depends, kind of. It's really not. Yeah, so it sort of depends on the angle. The ones that I've found are good are these first two. Like if you go to Canon and then Canon, these first two are pretty good. I also found that if you go to Nikon and then you go to the Nikon D200, that one's pretty good as well. Let's see, which one's actually better? I kind of like the Nikon, to be honest. So, okay, so it gets us pretty close, but it doesn't get us all the way there. But this is certainly much better when I make the comparison, right? So it's corrected it pretty well. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the crop tool, and then up here we're going to click on this little level bar next to the word straighten, and it's going to help us straighten it. So once this is selected, you're going to come down here, you're going to click on one corner of the drawing, the top corner actually, and you're going to pull this to the other corner, and you can see that it did a pretty good job of straightening it out actually, or of minding the warp. And then you're going to release. Okay, so now this top of your drawing is completely flat. And it's going to crop this a little bit because you've lost some of the edge in doing that. But that's okay because we added the edge. So here we have something that's pretty close to what we want. You can notice that this edge is still a little warped, this edge leaning in a little bit. So the last thing that you can do if you notice that it's still not quite what you want it to be is you can go up to Image, or excuse me, you can go up to Edit, and then Transform, and then we're going to go to Skew. Okay, so what this does is it gives you these anchor points, and then you can kind of take one of these and just sort of, let's pull this one to the side a little bit, just a little bit, and get that side straighter. Okay, so I like that. Work with that. Let's go back again. Skew. This one's not quite straight, so we'll pull this guy out just a little bit. It's not too bad. Okay. And then the last thing is that you see that this bottom here isn't really super straight, so we'll do this one more time. Transform and Skew, and we'll bring this side down a little bit. And you can see like that you don't want to go too crazy with this skewing, right? But this does help to correct your drawing and get it to be a little bit more square. So anyway, so this is pretty good, right? I'm glad we added the edges there because otherwise it might have eaten into it. But for right now, we've got a pretty good corrected square image. If you want to do this super fast, of course, you can just go, here, let's go back to the other one. So this is the original image, right? I guess, 1 second. That was the original image. You can just, if you really wanted to, you could just sort of crop out parts of your drawing and get something square, but I don't think that that's really what you guys want to do. This doesn't take that long. Anyway, so yeah. If you guys have any questions on this, you can email me or Han. If you are working with an image and you really find that it's not that workable and you really want to redocument your drawing, you can let us know and we can try and figure that out again. But I think we have pretty workable drawings or pretty workable images for everybody. So yeah, that's it for today. Thanks, guys.